Welcome to another true crime story time, where I tell you one true crime case that was solved using forensic science, all while doing, that's right, my makeup. Please read the disclaimer. I am not a professional forensic pathologist, nor am I a professional makeup artist. I'm just the average girl at home like you, doing her makeup and talking about a true crime case. So if that's something you're into, then you're more than welcome to stick around and hit the subscribe button. Also, quick reminder, the comment section is a privilege. Don't fuck it up. Now let's get into today's case. Now this story all takes place on October 4th of 2005 in Lincoln, California, where 27-year-old Christie Wilson lived with her boyfriend, Danny Berlindo. Christie was a very vibrant, beautiful, intelligent young woman who had a love for blackjack. All her friends said that Christie was super good at blackjack. Like, she was very good with numbers. She was able to solve really difficult mathematical problems in her head within seconds, they say. Now, although Christie knew that the odds were against her, she felt like she was lucky enough to beat those odds. So she studied the game of blackjack and she became quite good at it. She would spend a lot of her downtime at the casinos. Now, on October 5th of 2005, like any other night, Christie went out to the casino to play blackjack. Forgot, we need to put this on. I had to put my headband on, but we are back. So that night, Christie went to the Thunder Valley Casino in Lincoln, California to play her some blackjack. However, Christie would never be seen or heard from again. We're about to get into it. Here we go. 2 days later, when Christie hadn't shown up, when she hadn't come back home or shown up to work, her boyfriend, Danny, grew increasingly concerned, of course, and he contacted the authorities to report her missing. He told police that he had last saw her on the night that she had gone missing, and she went out to play blackjack, and she just never came back home. I don't know what I'm doing with this. I mean, 2 days? Guy, I would have been calling the police after 24 hours for sure. I think I would have been calling the police like within the first 8 hours, maybe 16. Like, if you're missing half a day, I'm probably gonna be thinking, either they're cheating or something, so I'm gonna call the police on your ass. But just kidding. Definitely I'm gonna be checking after 24 hours, like, why did it take 2 days for your girlfriend to be missing? And you're her live-in boyfriend and she's gone and you don't check on her for 2 days. I don't know. Seems a little suspicious to me, but now law enforcement's typical procedure when it comes to any missing person case or any foul play is to look at the persons closest to the victim, which would be her boyfriend, Danny. So instantly, investigators started looking into the couple's relationship. They wanted to find out, how were they together? Were they happy together? Were they a tumultuous? I can never say that word. Tumultuous? I still can't say it. Did they have issues? Maybe somebody was angry about? Was there any cheating going on? They just wanted to find out. Now, Danny Berlindo was a 31-year-old car salesman who was unemployed at the time and had been living with Christie, so he was basically her live-in boyfriend. I don't know if he was paying rent, but he better have been paying rent. Okay. And Danny and Christie had been dating for about a year. The couple had met at a casino, go figure, playing blackjack. It appeared as though they did have a mutual love for gambling. So I think like that is probably how they got on. It's just because the both of them loved gambling so much. And then it's nice to find someone who has the same interests as you. Why am I acting like I don't know how to apply makeup? It's just I have not been on camera in so long that I'm being a weirdo. And they hit it off so well that they ended up moving in together after just meeting for a couple of weeks. Which is weird. Girl, ain't nobody moving up in my house. I'll move up into somebody else's, but ain't nobody moving up in my house. You're gonna have to take me up out of my house and put me up in your house, but you're not moving up in my house. The double standard. But not too long after the couple had moved in together, their relationship would take a downward turn. According to friends and family members, Danny and Christie did in fact have a tumultuous relationship. Her parents told investigators of an incident when Christie had come to visit them, and they said that she showed up with bruises all over her. That's a no-no. And her stepfather had been furious when he saw this. Like, he already did not like the fact that Danny was living with his daughter, like living off of her, and he didn't have a job. Now she's showing up with bruises. I mean, he was really pissed. So Christie's family did not like Danny, and they had been concerned for her safety for quite some time. He's starting to look like a suspect, but just like my foundation is looking suspect. Investigators got a search warrant to search the apartment that Christie and Danny shared. They were looking for any evidence that might lead to a clue as to what had happened to Christie that night. Like, had she just run off? Maybe she was upset and she decided to leave. They didn't know. They weren't sure. Maybe something else happened. When they entered the apartment, the first thing that they noticed was that all of Christie's personal items, like her clothing, her makeup, her toiletries, even some of her medication that she had been taking for quite some time, like her daily meds, were all still at the apartment. Like, things that she definitely wouldn't have left behind if she decided to just run off. Nothing seemed out of place in the apartment. There was no sign of forced entry, so it was like, this was looking kind of like an inside job. Christie's cat was also still there. Now, you know that she didn't go nowhere without her cat. That's a huge red flag. Basically, there was no sign of evidence that Christie was planning to leave or go anywhere. So it appeared as though she had just vanished into thin air, which we all know don't happen to whole, full-grown ass people. Investigators thought that this was highly suspicious that Christie's cat was left behind, because like I said, nobody's leaving their damn cat behind. We know that is just like not the case here. With further investigation, they discovered that a month before Christie's disappearance, the police had been called out to the residence for an altercation between Christie and Danny. The police were called out and had to break up an altercation between the two of them. They weren't sure who the actual aggressor was because both Christie and Danny had visible signs of abuse. They both equally had bruises on them. Basically, they were fighting so loudly that the neighbors became concerned and they called the police out. Like I said, the both of them had physical injuries done to their bodies, so the police was unable to tell who was the main aggressor, and both of them were arrested and charged with domestic violence. So investigators took a look at Danny's phone records and they found that he had called Christina about 78 times on the night she had gone missing. I mean, it could have been that he was just worried, but I mean, 78 times, bro, you blowing me up like that, I'm gonna be shutting my phone off because we're not about to do that. You get up to 3 tries. He must have been sitting there back to back to back to back to back. Just, That is so annoying. Like, I understand you being worried or you care about me, but that to that extent, I think that's like obsessiveness. We're gonna go with it. I just made that up. It was kind of cool though. He also left multiple voice messages alluding to the fact that he had felt something sinister may have happened to her. And this was the night that she had gone missing. So, I mean, why that soon would you suspect something sinister happened to her? I don't know. And then not contact the police until 2 days later. Like, if you thought something sinister had happened to her to the point where you were calling her 78 times in a row, then why not also call the police? Why wait 2 days? And why would you jump to that conclusion? Now, although it appeared as though Danny was just a concerned boyfriend, investigators thought that this could be a way for him to sort of come up with an alibi for where he had been and everything, if he was calling her back to back and stuff, pretending like he was this concerned boyfriend when he really wasn't. And all this while, he had known what had happened to her because he was the one to have done it to her. Now, Christie's family, they felt it was Danny all the while, and they encouraged investigators to stay on Danny. They felt like he was the one to have done something to her. Christie's stepfather, he was a local detective, and he was able to get other local officers around the California area to join in on the search for Christie. The Santa Barbara Police Department got involved, and it was a huge, massive search because, of course, they're going to help him because he's one of their own. An extensive search was performed on land, by air, and sea. Like, they had helicopters, they had officers in vehicles, officers on foot searching for her. They had cadaver dogs. I mean, they had the entire works. And they searched over hundreds of square miles looking for Christi. The family became so convinced that Christi was a victim of foul play at the hands of Danny that they went to the apartment complex and searched the area around the apartment, all the lakes and ponds and like dumpster areas and everything in that general area. Perhaps he disposed of her body somewhere over there. They weren't sure, but they were just looking into everything at this point. Investigators believe that Christi wanted out of the relationship, and this could have been a possible motive for Danny to want her gone. When investigators questioned Danny about his whereabouts that evening, he told them that he was at his family's house having dinner. But that was only a partial alibi, because a friend of Danny's came forward and told investigators that he last saw Danny around 11:30 p.m. at the couple's apartment before he left. He had been hanging out with Danny there while Christi was out, and then he left Danny at the apartment alone. He said Christi was not home at that time, and no one saw Danny after that. And there was no other witnesses to corroborate his whereabouts. With no other suspects and no new leads in the case, investigators decided to check the security surveillance at the Thunder Valley Casino. Now, the casino had 700 cameras total across the entire casino. There were cameras inside and outside of the building. Investigators were able to locate Christi on the security surveillance, and they were able to track her movements throughout the entire casino. They saw Christi's vehicle pull into the parking lot of the casino. As she exited her vehicle, she was alone. She entered the casino alone, so obviously she had come alone. Danny was not with her at all, and neither was anyone else. So they see Christi walk over to a blackjack table, and she takes a seat there, and there is a couple of people sitting next to her. One was this short, stocky guy with black hair. He had like a dark colored hair, and he was sitting right next to Christi. Throughout the game, the two of them would become quite friendly. They would high-five each other whenever they won. They would also lean over and like whisper into each other's ears and be chuckling and laughing. And at some point, it got a little too friendly, I would say, and this guy puts his arm on the small of Christi's back, like, you know, one of those. He pulled one of those quick ones. According to the dealer from that night, Christi was on a winning streak, and you can actually see that from her excitement in the video. But then something happened, and Christi's winning streak took a turn, and it went downhill. She wasn't having as much good luck as she was in the beginning. Investigators spoke with employees at the casino, and they said that Christi was a regular at the casino, so they all knew her pretty well. And on this night, they said they found her behavior to be rather off-putting, kind of odd. She's usually very nice and chill, but tonight she was kind of on edge. In fact, I think the car dealer said that her behavior was out of character. So they were already seeing signs that something was up, that Christi was like, she was on one. When asked if she was drunk, employees said that they didn't believe that she was, because she literally had only one drink. If you watch the footage, you can see that Christi only had a couple of sips out of that one drink that she had ordered all night. So that definitely would not have been enough to get her drunk and put her on edge, like enough for her to be acting out of character. They said she became really irate and rude to the point where they were actually considering kicking her out of the casino, until the mystery guy stepped in and like intervened and kind of convinced them not to kick her out. He was like, oh no, she'll be good, she'll be good. Like, who is this guy and why is he intervening? I don't know. To find out the identity of the man, investigators had to track the machine slots that he played on that night. Now, guests at the casino have player cards, which allow them to get complimentary items from the casino by playing the slot machines. So they were able to obtain the man's identity from his player card. The man was 53-year-old Mario Garcia. He worked as an executive at a prestigious healthcare computer company. He made about 6 figures a year. He was married with 2 children whom he loved dearly. He was very active in his family life. He would spend a lot of time with his children, taking them to different games. He also at some point was the coach on one of his kids' football teams or soccer teams, something like that. And when he wasn't spending time with his family, he was normally just working because he really loved his job and he was good at it. He would work on major projects for the company, and his hobby was obviously gambling. From first glance, he seemed to be a very reputable guy. So what was he doing in this casino with Christi? I mean, if he had such a great family life with his wife and his children, why was he up in here putting his little grippy hands all over Christi? Now, the video surveillance shows Christi leaving the casino 6 hours after she arrived, and she is walking out with that same guy that was sitting next to her, which we now know as to be 53-year-old Mario Garcia. So the two exit the casino happily together, and they both walk to the parking lot. From the angle that the camera was, you're not able to see Christi get in, if anyone is getting in or out of Christi's vehicle, but you do see Mario get into his vehicle and he drives away alone. So you just see Mario's vehicle pull out, and it appears as though he is the only one in the vehicle as he drives away. However, Christi's vehicle never moves from her parking spot. Like either she got into the vehicle and just stayed in there, or she never got into the vehicle. This was so suspicious. Now they had 2 suspects, Danny and this new guy, Mario. Police found no solid evidence linking Danny to the disappearance of Christi, so they had to let him go. They had to let him off the hook. And Mario Garcia became their prime suspect. When investigators did a background check into Mario Garcia's past, they discovered that he wasn't as clean-cut as he first appeared to be. The background check revealed that Mario had been arrested in the past for kidnapping and raping his ex-girlfriend. He drove her to an unknown location outside of some creepy ass shack where he raped her inside of the car before taking her into the shack and then raping her again. And at some point she said that he actually pulled a gun on her and stuck it in her mouth, and he did pull the trigger. Thankfully the gun was not loaded. Why do they let these people out? Like, if he did this before in the past, why would you let him back out again? I don't get it. Now, this all happened 25 years prior to Christi's disappearance. And get this, you guys, he was charged with a misdemeanor and only received probation for his crime. Like, that's insane. I need to take the judge, the jury, the police officers, everybody else, I need to take them to jail because for doing that. Like, they need to go to jail for that. Now it's time to go into the palette. Ooh. But anyway, back to the story. But that wasn't the only incident that Mario had with an ex-girlfriend. He had another bizarre incident that occurred with a different ex-girlfriend, one that included her and her mother. Guys, are you ready for this? According to eyewitnesses, they saw Mario's vehicle pull over to the shoulder of the road on a bridge and stop before abruptly just speeding up and going directly off the bridge. No one knows what really happened. Mario was the sole survivor of the accident. Now, the mother of his girlfriend was found dead inside the car. She was found trapped in the vehicle. His ex-girlfriend, however, was found weeks later when she washed up on shore. Mario was the only one to survive the crash. What a coincidence. Ooh, I really like this color. I'm gonna zoom in so you guys can see my face more because this color is giving me life. This was enough for the investigators, and they brought Mario in for questioning. During his interview with police, he was questioned if he knew the whereabouts of Christi, which of course he denied knowing anything or having anything to do with her disappearance. He claimed he last saw her when they both left the casino, they got into their cars, and they went their separate ways. And since the security surveillance cameras at the casino were unable to capture that part of the parking lot, They couldn't prove nor deny what he was saying. At that time, Mario was driving a Toyota Camry, and his model had a very particular feature. Whenever the doors were unlocked, the lights on his vehicle would flash. In some of the security surveillance footage, the lights on his vehicle can be seen flashing 4 times, indicating that all 4 car doors were unlocked. This gave investigators a timeline for when he had gotten into his vehicle and drove away. There was a 3-minute and 40-second time frame. Now, Mario told investigators that he went straight home, but security surveillance captured his car going in the opposite direction. Sir, don't lie. It was going in the opposite direction of his house, and it wasn't the right route. It was a completely different route than he had told investigators that he had taken. Now, according to Mario, he went straight home after this and went to bed. But when police questioned his wife, she refused to speak. So investigators, they were like, that's fine. We don't need your help. They checked Mario's phone records, and they found out that he had actually called his wife earlier that morning at around 7:51, right before he went to work, which he was due to go into work, I believe, at 8:30 a.m. in the morning. So she knew that he wasn't home, and she just didn't want to say it. Listen, I'm always stand by your man, but when your man is a rapist, murderer, and killer, it's time to stand down, okay? It's time to stand down. His cell phone even pinged at a cell tower north of his home. So Mario told police that he arrived at work around 9 a.m. in the morning because he knew that he did, because he had an important meeting to attend, and he's sure that he arrived around that time. But when they questioned co-workers, they claimed that Mario had come in late that day, more like around 10 a.m. than 9. So what was he doing for a whole hour? I don't know. They even said he looked kind of disheveled and he had scratches and scrapes on his face. Looked so bad that one of the other guys in the office made a joke about, you know, the other guy looking worse. I think he said something like, I hope the other guy looks worse. So, I mean, I don't know who Mario thought he was fooling, but investigators took a look at the security surveillance footage from the casino from the night before. They just wanted to see if Mario had those scrapes and scratches on his face before he came into work that day, like if he was already, like if he showed up like that. Because maybe he already had them from a previous altercation or something else from earlier that day when he had shown up to the casino, and they just didn't see it until the next morning. They weren't sure. And they wanted to see, like, when he left, did he have those scratches? Like, when and where did he get those scratches? That's what they were trying to figure out. But when they looked at the footage, they found that Mario didn't have anything wrong with his face the night before. Like, there was no scrapes, there was no marks, nothing. He was clean as a whistle. His face appeared to be in very good condition. There was nothing wrong, no scrapes, no bruises, no marks, nothing like that. Investigators confronted Mario about the injuries on his face, and he told investigators that he had got those injuries from some sort of yard work that he had been doing earlier on in that day before he went into work. So after he left the casino that night and in between him going to work at 8 a.m. in the morning or 9 a.m., whatever time he left, I mean, why would you be doing yard work around that time? That just sounds bizarre all in and of itself. I would just have to question that. And of course, investigators found it very suspicious that someone would be doing yard work at God knows what time in the morning in between night and day before they had to go to work. It just made no sense. Also, it would have been dark outside. So why would you be doing yard work at night, in the middle of the night, in the dark? I don't know, it's a lot. Investigators took photos of Mario's injuries and sent it to the forensics lab to be analyzed. The injuries were analyzed by a forensic scientist that specialized in emergency injuries and medicine. Forensic scientists first analyzed the 4 scratch marks that Mario had on the left side of his face, his arm, his chest, his body. They focused specifically on those injuries because they knew that Christi was right-handed. Those scratch marks would be consistent with a right-handed victim being attacked from that side. She was probably trying to defend herself, and because she's right-handed, she would have went for that side of his body. Forensic scientists noticed that the marks had a geometrical pattern and that they were all going in the same direction, which would not be consistent with a random accident. I mean, it was a very distinct claw-like pattern, like it was a claw mark. No tree fell on your head, okay? Somebody scratched you. okay? And we know who it is. Forensic scientists believe that Christi caused the markings on Mario's body while fighting for her life. Mario's home computer was searched and investigators found even more incriminating evidence. Mario had actually searched websites on information for forensic toxicology, like why would he need that? He also looked up forensic firearms evidence as well as date rape drugs. I mean, I just feel like they always mess up here. We see it time and time again, and still they do the same thing. They still get on the computer, they still get on Google and look it up. All the circumstantial evidence at this point was pointing towards Mario Garcia killing, harming, doing something terrible to Christi. However, investigators still had no solid hardcore evidence to say that he actually did it. I mean, they had evidence linking him to Christi, but they did not have a body at this point. And as you know, it's extremely hard to get any sort of murder conviction or to bring charges up against someone for murder when you don't have a body to prove that the person is even dead, harmed, or whatever. They had no witnesses, they had no weapon, they had no body. It was not going to be that easy. Investigators needed more, so they got a search warrant for Mario's car, hoping to find some solid evidence that would prove Christi was in fact dead and that Mario was the one who had caused that harm to her. Now, right away, forensic experts could tell that the car had been deep cleaned. With further investigation, they discovered a small stain on the back seat of the car that had a brownish discoloration. Initially, they thought that it was a dirt stain, but after performing a presumptive test, it was clear that it was blood. The blood was sent to the forensics lab for DNA testing. However, forensic scientists were unable to perform any sort of DNA test on the sample because it had been contaminated due to the stain repellent that had been applied to the car seats. Blood spatter experts found blood stains on the passenger side door as well as the creases in between the back seats. Forensic experts came to the conclusion that based on the blood spatter pattern, that the blood spatter had come from some sort of high to medium velocity impact. Medium to high velocity impact is what I meant. Crime scene investigators also found hair strands in the trunk of the vehicle and on the passenger side door. Forensic scientists compared the hair that they found in Mario's car to hair samples that they had taken from Christi's hairbrush. And guess what, you guys? It matched. The blood found in the seams of the back seat were also processed, and this time it came back with a match. They about to get him. It was a mixture of Mario Garcia and Christie Wilson's blood. Proof that Christie Wilson had been harmed in his car, and he also acquired injuries in that car as well. Finally, investigators had him. Mario Garcia was in fact the murderer. Thanks to forensic science and some good police work, Mario Garcia was convicted of Christie Wilson's murder and sentenced to 59 years in prison. Christie's body was never found. What did you guys think about this case and my makeup look? Please let me know in the comments down below. If you like videos like these, you can check out some of my other episodes. I'll leave them linked on the screen right here. Like, comment, subscribe, and share. Please share because it really helps me out. And I'll see you guys next time with another true crime story time. Bye.